And welcome to the Evidence and Reasons for the Christian Faith video channel. I'm in the process of writing a book to help Christians with their faith. And the deadlines for both marketing it and getting it edited and published are fast approaching. And this is a project that kind of was thrust upon me, partly because now people are asking me to materials, and they're inviting me to radio shows and interviews. I think this is for a variety of reasons. I don't know how long I can remain in obscurity at the rate things are going. And I figured, if I'm when I was on national TV not last year, in 2006, there were 1 million people watching. It was in the Coral Ridge Hour. It's on a Sunday morning. And that if I had books and materials available at the time, I probably could have reached out to a lot of people. And I'm in the position now that if more and more people start to approach me and want interviews, etc., I think I should have materials and a good website ready for them. I have a team of developers, God bless them, who have volunteered to help build the website. I have an editor helping me write the book. And now it's just a matter of committing things to writing. I've been privileged to get some really good business consultation. So things are happening. Now, one critical element, and greetings to you. This will be a short show anyway. One critical element to my thesis is that one thing that helps people in the Christian faith is realizing evolutionary theory is basically garbage. People keep asking, why don't we publish in peer-reviewed journals? I sometimes think, well, evolutionary biologists I don't regard as my peers. My peers and my seniors are people like, you saw him recently, David Snoke, Dr. Robert Matheny, Dr. Andy McIntosh, many of the distinguished scientists that have appeared on this channel. I don't consider evolutionary biologists my peers. I know that was just totally insulting. Don't take it too seriously, guys. I've had lunch and nice conversations with some top scientists of the world who are not friendly to evolutionary biology. And I consider them my seniors by far. They have graciously considered me as one of their colleagues, which I feel quite unworthy of. But that being said, I'm going to put forward a pretty simple hypothesis, and I'm inviting Zachary Hancock, who has been critical of my work, but I'm also grateful that he's taken time to criticize my work, because there's a saying, it's better to be criticized than ignored. He was on a channel with Dapper Dino, and I was not invited to give my critique. In fact, as I was just in the comments section responding to Dapper Dino and said, look at all this experimental evidence, all I was doing is typing peer-reviewed articles by evolutionists. He removed my moderator privileges. And like, dude, I think that was kind of low. You're going to have a show about me, and I can't even comment with moderator privileges. You stripped me of them, and you told me to go away. And right there on your channel. So it's not like I'm afraid to confront my critics. And I don't blame Zachary Hancock for the conduct of that meeting. I do appreciate the fact he's taken time to review what he and my colleague and mentor, John Sanford, have said. And I do appreciate the time. I didn't like the way that venue is handled. But I'm not asking Zachary Hancock or any qualified evolutionary biologist, to rehash that 2-hour discussion about genetic entropy. I have a much simpler thing I'm going to put forward. So guys, this is your chance to speak or forever hold your peace. I've banned a lot of people from this channel because they obviously know way less than me about evolutionary biology and biology, period. And they're not interested in truth. I have no time for them. Yeah, I'm snotty and arrogant, but hey, you know, if I feel someone is qualified, I'm happy to study under them. I've had an evolutionary biologist as my professor. That's fine. I don't give them a hard time. But if they start telling me that I don't understand this or that, and I don't think that that's the case, and then they keep repeating that, they're gone. I just simply don't have time to deal with critics like that. So, qualified critics, and Zachary Hancock is a population geneticist as far as I know. And so this is the simple thing I'm going to put forward in my book, and it's in the video description. Zach doesn't have to come on my channel if he would prefer not to, but I'm just making this a matter of public record that he is invited, and also anyone of his caliber is willing to engage in this. So if you're qualified and you don't want to come on this channel, you know, in an interview, you can put something in the comment section. Unfortunately, YouTube just blasts away links to other websites. I think that's a spam protection feature to protect channels from spam. So if for some reason you drop the link in a comment and then your comment doesn't show, that's the YouTube bots trying to clean up. And I apologize in advance if it does. But I'm coming on record and saying I'm writing this chapter, and what I'm putting forward is essentially what I described in the video description. So why don't I just kind of like try to read this? And there are a variety of ways. I mean, if I need to reframe it to make it more cogent, that's fine if you don't like my choice of words. But if the essential point stands, then we should pursue it. So I said, my thesis is that reproductive efficiency, which is wrongly called natural selection, is anti-correlated with complexity, or at best the relationship of reproductive efficiency to degree of complexity is uncertain. So at best, Darwinism is accepted on faith. At worst, it has been virtually falsified, and Dawkins Blindwatchmaker is kaput. I had, let me see, I got a little bit lost here. Apologies. I had mentioned the title Genomes Decay Despite Sustained Fitness Gains, and I was accused of quote mining or whatever. I take a little exception to that because this is well known. That's not an isolated instance. You could, I mean, look, I cited Kunin. The dominant mode of evolution is genome reduction on so many levels. There are numerous papers about natural selection selecting, or reproductive efficiency is the more appropriate term, selecting for simplification, not for complexification. The only place that happens on net average over many trials seems to be only in the imagination of evolutionary biologists and their simulations like Lenski's and Adamio Fria's Avita. It doesn't seem to accord with experimental evidence. So I think, you know, he could say I quote mined it, but that's not representing what I was feeling is actually illustrated by all these experiments and direct observations, not to mention a paper by Wolf and Kunin, Genome Reduction as the Dominant Mode of Evolution. And then, of course, they'll say, well, look, we have these spurts of complexification. I'm like, well, you know, you didn't explain it. You just say it happened there. If the dominant mode accords with experimental evidence, then something else had caused complexification. So I'm quite happy to say this whole thing about Dawkins Blindwatchmaker is kaput. It's kaput. The theory doesn't square with observational evidence. And I'm also writing, I am writing peer-reviewed, I am composing articles that will be submitted to peer-reviewed journals. And they will not be evolutionary or biology journals. They'll be among my peers, which would be condensed matter physicists, engineers, information theorists, mathematicians. And I do have to have a bone to pick when evolutionary biologists said, well, engineers, you know, have no right to say this. I beg to differ. Look at the definition of applied physics. Applied physics is the bridge between theoretical physics and engineering. In some sense, engineers are applying physics and science. They have a sense of when of how, if there is a claimed change over time of the system, whether the description actually fits expectations. They have a sense of how physical systems are expected to behave. I mean, that's their job. And the persistent criticism from engineers is, you know, what we hear about evolutionary biologists talking about condensed matter, the behavior of condensed matter physical systems, it just seems absolutely ridiculous. And so I one time wrote, you know, Michael Lynch sent me a nasty letter. I sent him one back. I said, you know, engineers build spaceships. You guys build phylogenetic trees that can't agree with each other. I know that was really mean, but I kind of had it with their attitude. So there it is, right there in the video description. If you don't like the wording, you can rewrite it. But I think that's accurate. And if you have a problem with it, I'd like to hear. You know, type a comment in the comment section if you want to talk. We'll figure a way to connect. If you don't want to have this discussion, that's fine. But I'm making it a matter of public record. You want to critique something I'm going to be sharing with Christians on a scientific basis. Scientific, not ad hominem saying Sal's this or that. You know, that's unacceptable. You ought to be able to attack the argument. And I think I stand on good theoretical grounds. I've already pointed out the Ariu and Lutentin pretty much made a wreck of the idea of evolutionary fitness. It was listed as one of his 4 complications in the evolutionary process that is still unsolved. And if you can't solve the definition of fitness, you have no theory. You have no theory. You have a faith statement. It does not qualify as to the standard, the platinum standard of experimental science. It might be on the low tier of like scientific speculation, but don't put it as confirmed fact. And definitely the blind watchmaker, which tries to make attempts to rail against religion, is itself a religion. Absent of facts, absent of good theory, it's nonsense. Dawkins failed to account for the anti-correlation of complexity with reproductive efficiency. What happens in quote unquote natural selection, which is reproductive efficiency, on many trials is the opposite. Simplification, not complexification. And that's really bad news for him. Sadly, it's bad news for the people he's misled, who may have even committed suicide, like Jesse Kilgore. And I'm going to highlight this nonsense is destroying Christian lives, ruining people's faith, and it's also fundamentally bad science. And I get a little irritated with these theistic evolutionists promoting it as good science. I'm like, I wanted to tell them, you better be 100 million% sure it's correct. Because if it's not, and God actually created, and you're destroying people's faith because you have insulted God's creation and his miracles attributed to ordinary processes, the complexity of life, rather than the miraculous power of God, I got a major problem with that. You can accept it, you can believe it, but to promote it with as good science, I have a serious issue with that. You could say it's speculative science, unconfirmed, you believe it, no empirical proof. I'm okay with that. A lot of good science does start as speculation, but I'm saying, look, the experimental evidence doesn't look good. So I'm offering this opportunity for you guys to go after me and correct me. So if there's theistic evolutionists out there that want to engage this topic, you're welcome, except the ones that I've banned. And I've given some of these guys enough of a chance to actually engage stuff. And if they're like Joel Duff, who, when I start putting this stuff, he changes the topic about pornography, I'm done. This is a serious discussion, and we're trying to evaluate things in a scientific way. You know, these rhetorical tactics of changing the subject to something else, then, you know, I was just reading a scientific paper and he starts talking about pornography. No, I don't deal with that. I do not deal with that. I do not welcome it. I do invite serious scientific discussion. So there you have it. I put it out on the table, and I'm going to just keep pressing it. So I've been invited to speak on a radio program, and it's been scheduled already in mid-October, and it's going to be a big debut. And I'm going to put this thesis forward. If you want to criticize it, speak now or forever hold your peace. And I'm hoping it'll be included in a book chapter. So that's why I'm soliciting comments now. And thank you for your attention. Thank you for letting me rant. I'd like to acknowledge Bread of Life and Breath of God for visiting. I have to get going. It's been great seeing you all on this Saturday afternoon, evening. Take care, and the Lord richly bless you. Have a good day.